Alright, so in today's video, we're going to be discussing everything we know so far regarding Resident Evil Death Island. So for starters, this is confirmed to be a new film. So this is not going to be like the same case that we got with Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, which was a show. And to be honest, I'm glad that they're going back to making CGI movies rather than CGI shows. Since to be honest, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness didn't really feel like a show. It did feel like just a 4-part movie, if anything. It actually had the same runtime as the other movies, but it was just split up into 4 parts, and I thought that was kind of strange. Now, the other thing that's also worth mentioning about Resident Evil Death Island is that it doesn't seem like it's backed by Netflix. It seems like Netflix probably just dropped Resident Evil, after the whole bomb of a show that released with the Netflix Resident Evil show, especially since Resident Evil Infinite Darkness did release it as a Netflix show. So I guess after the events of the Netflix Resident Evil show, Netflix was like, you know what? Yeah, we're canceling all our projects with Resident Evil. So it seems, as mentioned, this is just speculation, but it would seem that this is not backed by Netflix since it wasn't on Netflix. Now, the next thing that we know for sure that is going to be a part of this movie is that now it's actually going to star Chris Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy, and the IGN article does state and more. But we do know for a fact that Jill Valentine is going to be in the movie. Now, whether or not that's a flashback is debatable, but we do know for certain that Rebecca is going to be making an appearance in this movie since we do have that shot of Rebecca ordering a coffee, and it does say on the coffee cup Rebecca. So that's also really great to see. And I'm not gonna lie, I am incredibly hyped about this movie, mostly because we have not seen Jill Valentine in literally 14 years since the events of Resident Evil 5, which take place in 2009. So this is a huge deal. Whether or not it's a flashback, I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping that it isn't. And now, if you guys want to see my full thoughts on whether or not this is a flashback or not, then make sure to check out my full reaction and full breakdown analysis of the new trailer for Resident Evil Death Island. And now, continuing on with the next thing that we know for certain is that we can ascertain that this movie does take place after the events of Resident Evil Vendetta. Now, it is worth noting that Resident Evil Vendetta actually took place in 2014 in the Resident Evil timeline, so it was it's in between the events of Resident Evil 6 and Resident Evil 7. Now, as mentioned in that video where I'm reacting to the video, to the trailer, and as well as breaking it down, it is worth mentioning that we do see Maria Gomez, which is the same lady that was still alive in the events of Resident Evil Vendetta. So we do know that this takes place after the events of 2014, but we don't know if it takes place before Resident Evil 7. As mentioned in that video where I break it down, you can see that in this movie, Chris is still working for the BSAA, so he's not working for Blue Umbrella, which is the organization that he works for during the events of Resident Evil 7. So I'm assuming that this might be maybe 2015, 2016, the max, but it's interesting. But regardless, we do know, we can ascertain that that's probably the range as to when this takes place. So this is great news because, as mentioned, we have not seen Jill Valentine in quite some time, right? 14 years, up to 2023. But if we see her during the events right before Resident Evil 7, that would be amazing because it does give her hope that we will be seeing her in later installments of Resident Evil. Since it is worth noting as well that the CGI movies, CGI shows, they are canon to the story. Now, the next thing that we actually do know for certain is that it is releasing during the summer, but we do not have an official date as to when exactly in the summer. So of course, this could be, late June, July, August, but yeah. Now, it is worth noting that we do have plot details, so we'll read that right now. It basically says, Resident Evil Death Island reveals a story that will take our heroes to San Francisco to deal with a zombie outbreak, and Alcatraz appears to be the key to solving this disaster. DSO agent Leon S. Kennedy is on a mission to rescue Dr. Antonio Taylor from kidnappers when a mysterious woman thwarts his pursuit. Now, of course, that mysterious woman looks to be Maria Gomez. Now, let's continue. Meanwhile, BSAA agent Chris Redfield is investigating the zombie outbreak in San Francisco where the cause of the infection cannot be identified. The only thing the victims have in common is that they all visited Alcatraz Island recently. Following that clue, Chris and his team head to the island where a new horror awaits them. Now, it is worth mentioning that all we know for certain is that that mysterious woman is Maria Gomez, and that this does take place after the events of Resident Evil Vendetta, which takes place in 2014. But what's interesting here is that we don't know what the new virus is. Now, we did see in the trailer, again, make sure to watch my full breakdown analysis of the trailer, but we did see some new enemy types, and in that video, I do specify my theory as to what the new virus could be. And the next bit of news is that we actually do know for certain who the director is. It's actually the same director that directed Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, or in other words, Eiichiro Kasumi. Well, if you guys are excited as I am, and you guys want to know my full theories on what the virus could be regarding Resident Evil Death Island, then make sure to click this video. Anyways, thanks for watching.